Start with Joel.
Hey, Chris, I guess the popular question that you probably knew you were getting before you sat down there was pitching rotation for the weekend. So any update on that?
Put it out a couple hours ago. I get on these guys. It's McLeod, Bednar, Sarantola. So McLeod, Bednar, Sarantola.
And I guess a follow-up to that, just I guess with Jackson, how did he kind of take the news that for the first time this year he won't be starting on a weekend?
Yeah, obviously he wants to start, but he's gonna get a chance to pitch and pitch in a good part of the game. So he's been able to going into the first weekend of the year. He's probably pitched more than he ever thought he would to this point. So obviously he's a competitor. He's pitched good. He wants to pitch more, but he'll be ready to go this weekend.
We go to John.
Hey, Chris, how's it going? So putting Will obviously into that weekend rotation, I guess, what was the main thing that kind of went in on that? And is there any concern with, I think he's tossed like 7 innings this year, or is he like 100% like fully ready to go? Is there any caution on him, and how's he looking on that end?
He's 100% ready to go. And it's actually, if you go back to week 1, this was our original rotation, and probably we went back to the end of last year. This was our original rotation. So where we were pitching, I think we played Quinnipiac late, and we pitched this rotation. So it was what we were planning on to start the year. Obviously, things happened, and we had guys step up and pitch well. But Will's ready. I mean, he's ready to go. And unfortunately, the other night I wanted to pitch him a little longer, but he pitched so good and efficient that we just didn't have to stretch him out. So he'll be ready, and he'll be 100% this weekend.
What did you kind of want to see from him when he came back that was going to be like the overlying factor to make you think, okay, yep, like he's ready to go. He's ready to be back to where he was. What were you kind of trying to look for once he returned, and what did you see?
Well, the things you're looking for is you wanted to make sure he had velo. You wanted to make sure he had breaking ball command. And then how does he react the next day? That's why his volume had to slowly get built up, because, he threw 1 inning. How do you feel the next day? Threw 2 innings. How do you feel? And then an extended outing, just trying to see how he felt. So I think those are the biggest areas for him. He's felt great. He's had great velo. He's commanded his breaking ball. He's ready to pitch and be ready to go. And the luxury that we have is our starters don't have to have crazy long starts, because we really feel like we have like 6 starters to where you can match a game up like we did last Sunday, a guy going 4 or 5, another guy going 3 or 4, and getting extended periods out of guys who are very talented.
We'll go to Ben.
Chris, obviously, I think outside of Eric, maybe none of these guys have pitched an SEC game. Just in terms of getting guys prepped, how much of that is just a matter of, get there and, do what you kind of do? Or obviously you've seen some really good teams already this year, but how much preparation, if at all, or what's kind of said to those guys, just get guys kind of ready for that?
Well, we do have some, on the mound, probably the least amount of experience in SEC play, and it'll matter. I don't think it matters opening weekend. I think it matters as you go 6-7 weeks into SEC play and you're going through this grind. I think that's the piece that we play great teams. So we've played Texas Tech or Texas or TCU or whoever, and they've gone up against great teams. I think it's the longevity of being in the league and playing through that whole season that gets a guy and can knock you down a little bit if you're not mentally tough. But I think they're ready. I think LSU, you look at them, their youth is in the lineup. But just like us, we have really good pitchers who just haven't pitched a lot of SEC, and they have really good hitters right out there and pitchers that, just haven't had a lot of SEC experience. So I think you'll see that around the league a lot because of everybody missing last year.
And in terms of Jackson, just curious, I mean, do you envision him in kind of like a longer relief role? Do you see him as a midweek guy? Where do you see him kind of fitting, or is it kind of just playing it by ear right now?
We're playing it week to week, just with all these guys. I mean, we're playing it week to week, with the – now as we move into SEC play, it's going to be who can help us win those games on the weekend. And, that'll go for everybody across the board. I mean, trying to win we get 30 SEC games, and being able to make a dent and get enough wins in the SEC to do special things at the end of the year is our goal. And so we're going to use those arms accordingly to how we match up to somebody else.
Robbie.
Chris, I know you've had a chance to be in this rivalry a little bit with LSU. You had a 17-inning game, I think, in a series a couple years ago. I think this is your first trip to Baton Rouge. How excited are you to get down there and experience that atmosphere, and how excited are your players this week leading up to the series?
Well, I think everybody's fired up. I've never one of the few places I haven't played, so played or coached in. And actually, when I was in Indiana, I scheduled a trip to go to LSU, and they opened at LSU last year. I was just in Starkville. So it's it's an interesting place. It's a a park and a city, a great tradition and a program. I know our players are excited. It's been fun this week to watch and read. I read, one of, Steve's articles and the history and tradition of this. And I talked to Coach Polk, and I've talked to, John, and just some neat things in this rivalry and tradition of playing this game. So it should be a lot of fun. We're excited for it.
Good to Steve.
Well, first, thanks for reading, Chris. Second, when you look at LSU, I mean, obviously they swing the bats with authority, but what are your kind of observations and impressions of the Tigers at this point?
It's there's a lot of power in the lineup. So being able to control the lineup, and a lot of times when you place a team with power, it's about not giving up freebies, walks, HBPs, or if you give up a solo home run, it's one thing. You give up a 3-run homer, it's another. And so, trying to control everything around, some of the power hitters. And then when you look at them, it's really good starting pitching right now. And their Saturday starter, Marceau, I don't think he's given up a run or an earned run this year. And their Friday night guys, rated as one of the top 10 picks in the country. So you're going to have to go in there and fight and compete with their starters and try to give yourself a chance. But those are their two strengths, I think, are two of the bigger things. LSU's always talented. So having new guys and some young guys in there is nothing new.
Anything else for Coach? Joel.
I guess I asked you this a couple of weeks ago, Chris, but a couple of weeks since then, your team has obviously racked up some good innings offensively and things. But where do you feel like you're at offensively, I guess, headed into this weekend?
I think we're good. I mean, it was funny on Tuesday night, we hit inside because of the rain, and, Goda told me, man, that's one of our better BPs of the year. And we started out the first 2 innings, we weren't real good, and then you saw some guys get some really good swings off. And I swear we had 5 swings where we just hit a bullet at somebody. And I like where we're at. We have some guys who started a little slow, but I think they're starting to come around. And I think, they're guys who have played a lot here before and had success. So I think as we get those guys going, we have a chance to really, really click.
Go back to Robbie.
Coach, how challenging is it to narrow this roster down on the SEC weekend and get the right guys in there that you need, both offensively, positionally, and pitching?
It was a tough, probably 48 hours of putting up the roster and making decisions. And, we're trying to do it week by week. So we have some guys who won't go with us this weekend and will pitch on Tuesday. And then next weekend, you may have been on the LSU roster and then not on the Arkansas roster because we need more left-handers one weekend. So trying to sell the kids on, and we need everybody. And you can't disconnect just because you don't make a road trip or do something, because we could need you in a short amount of time. And in a COVID world, we know that could happen to where you could lose a handful of guys and still need to have available players. So everybody in our league's dealing with it. Most of the teams in the country. Luckily, we have a 30-man roster. The SEC let us bump that up, so that's helped. But still not easy. You hate to see kids who work really hard and are talented, and they don't get to get on the bus today. It's a little frustrating.
Steve.
Chris, you talk about the dude effect, and Alex Box Stadium is a difficult place to play, but with all the restrictions and things like that, I know you guys haven't played a true road game this year, but does that negate some of the home field advantage? I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
I don't know. I do think it changes it. It changes it our place and changes it their place a little bit. I think they'll have a decent crowd. I think they're up to 50% is what we're hearing. So they'll probably have their biggest crowds of the year, jump in there and be ready to go. It's not 100%. So I do think that'll help in some ways. But unfortunately, when you come back home, it doesn't help you when you play at home. Playing in their ballpark, I think, is a huge advantage because it plays for the home run a little bit, especially if the wind's in the right direction. So we're built a little bit more for our ballpark. So we'll have to do a good job managing that. That probably the home field advantage probably is more about the ballpark and everything than maybe the crowds right now, since the crowds aren't at max capacity.
Anything else for Coach?